Hi and welcome to Fierce Feedback. This is the show where ordinarily two friends bring two games, but none of that matters right now because we're doing a special episode. Hi Liz McCurry.
Hello Will Golston, how's it going?
It's alright, yes. We are doing a special episode to commemorate doing a special episode in which we've decided to talk about our gaming history.
Yeah, because we came to realise that I didn't think when we started this that our gaming histories and the games that we brought would be so different.
Yes.
And it's come to light that, you know, we both follow a kind of trend each. So we just wanted to give a little bit of insight into, you know, what made us the twisted characters that we are today.
Yeah, and I also think that the premise of the show was that we realised that we've played very different games, and by talking about the history of games that we've had and some of the influences and reasons that we became, I guess, gamers, you know, it might give people a little insight into what we like, what we don't like, and also give a few heads up for games that we might do in the future.
I was just about to say that, like, yeah, this might be a little bit of a foreshadowing for what is to come.
Indeed.
So by the end of this episode, you will be able to, like, if we were in a beat 'em up, you'd be able to know what our names were, what our fighting styles were, our blood types, and what we like and dislike.
Blood types.
Always in the manuals.
Is it?
Yeah, it's always in the fighting manuals.
Blood type?
Blood type. I mean, you never know when you're going to need
Liz.
transfusion, is it?
E Honda. Name is blood type.
B, innit?
Alright, fine. So as is traditional, we do take turns, so we thought we'd retain that format and just take a little look behind the curtain. And last week's episode, Liz, did you go first?
I'm making a weird noise. I went first.
Okay, you sound very sure about that. In that case, I will go first and talk about my gaming history.
Tell me about, like, how you became a gamer.
It's a very good question because I tried to think about my first ever game, and I've already brought what I think, based on my patchy memory, was my first game.
Three Stooges.
Exactly, is CinemaWare's Three Stooges. A very odd first game. You can go back and listen to that episode if you'd like. Like. I basically got into games for a reason. So I must have not had, you know, I mustn't have had like, you know, just like, oh, I'll just randomly get a PC and play computer games. Like I'd seen computer games. So, you know, my friend James had the NES, Nintendo.
Yep, my cousin had that.
You know, so I would go to his place and we would play Duck Hunt and Super Mario Brothers. And at school, there were some really primitive, I think they were RM Nimbus or Acorn computers. Like
the one with the owl on.
Yeah, super old school, like, computers at the time. So we're talking, like, late 80s at this point. Yeah. And so, you know, formatively, I'd become aware at, like, age, I don't know, 7 or 8 that, like, computers were a thing. And by 9 or 10, I must have, like, wanted a computer. It must have been like, oh, I've got to get this. And so, like, early 90s, I'd ask my parents, oh, God, I really, really do want a computer for myself and so on. And I'm sure, like I said in previous episodes, I must have spun a yarn about, like, I think it's pretty important, I think, for school and stuff. Like, at school they have them, so that must be good. And so my parents, not knowing anything about computers, went to a computer shop and they came back with the Amstrad.
Amstrad?
So Amstrad was the computer company made by... what's the guy who does UK Apprentice?
Alan Sugar.
Alan Sugar.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So he made Amstrad, which was this computing company. So there were tons of computer companies around the sort of like mid to late 80s, especially in the UK, which is very big for like sort of programming random applications.
Yeah.
And, you know, kind of like finding hardware and software solutions for small businesses. So, you know, he'd made this Amstrad thing. By the time my parents went to the computer shop, it was definitely well out of date. Because at my school, they already had like the maybe like 186 and 286. So these are like, you know, they're running Windows 3.1, I think. Maybe that was the 386. So they had like mouse at this point. So it wasn't just like DOS.
Did they take cassettes?
No, you're going back to like Spectrum and Commodore 64.
Okay.
For those. And so, yeah, again, like another friend, my friend Jamie had the Commodore 64, and that was the tape deck.
Yeah.
One where you'd put a cassette in, and then you'd be like, well, we want to play Batman, but it takes about 20 minutes to load. Let's go and play outside. Brilliant. And that's why video games were never like, we can just keep playing video games. They just took too long to fucking load. So it would always be like, play outside. Come back like an hour later. We can play Batman now for 10 minutes. And then go outside again. So anyway, I asked them for this PC, got the Amstrad PC 5086.
Oh, wow.
No, it's the 086.
Yeah,
not a 186, not a 286, a 086.
Is that because it was 1986?
This is because this was just the architecture of the processor. So this was already very out of date. Let me put it that way to you. This thing ran at 2 megahertz or 4 megahertz.
Wow.
So think about now you get a processor and it's like multiple cores, 2.4 gigahertz. This was 2 megahertz.
But for the time?
No, not for the time.
Oh, no.
It was garbage.
Oh.
It was like probably 4 or 5 years behind, like by my vague guesswork.
Yeah.
Based on what I read. Didn't have a mouse because it didn't need one because it only ran DOS. So everything was command line based. You wrote in like, if you want to open a game, you have to put the floppy disk in, type the name of the executable, but you don't know what it is. So you have to search dir to find the list of files.
That's part of the game, right?
Yeah, all of this stuff. So it's sort of, the great thing about it was that I'm really glad they did that because it gave me this kind of formative interest in programming and all of that, and like the mechanics of how the thing worked.
That's a good point.
Which is really cool. And so the difficult bit, on the flip side was that it was out of date. So the games that were in computer shops, a lot of them were making this kind of generational leap from low density floppy disks to high density floppy disks, which my computer did not run whatsoever.
Oh, no.
It only ran the 720 kilobyte low density floppy disk.
I remember those. I used to have loads of them.
Yeah, exactly. And so those at the same time were similar to like Amiga, but again, not the same, and similar to Atari ST, again, not the same. So you had this minefield every time we went to a computer shop being like, is it one of 4 potentially wrong things I could buy, or will it run on our computer? So we kind of, imagine going to like the video shop to rent a video when you're a kid.
Yeah.
And then going through and being like 1 in 100 works on our computer.
Oh my goodness.
So that's why I ended up with just a bunch of really random disparate games because I didn't really have choice. I just had that's the one I can get. I better get that one. If I'm allowed to buy a game, I've got to get something kind of thing.
How old are you around this time? So
I'm this is 91, 92. So I'm 8, 9 years old. Mm-hmm. And so, I had Zool, which was probably a highlight. One of the first games I got was Fantasy World Dizzy, which is the egg character with the boxing gloves.
Yeah, I know who you mean.
Love Dizzy, the Oliver twins.
I was going to say that was Blitz, wasn't it?
Yeah, Blitz Publishing, exactly. Double Dragon I had.
I remember that.
Which was ported everywhere from arcades. So I had it on PC. Indiana Jones, Last Crusade, Super Off-Road, and loads of other just random little things that, I'm sure will come back to me at some point. And then it basically got so old, that PC, that I kind of was mostly playing games by the time I went to high school, age 11, in the computer club, not really a club, but just avoiding being bullied at lunch by staying in with the computers. A crew, a cabal, if you will.
Yeah.
And playing things like Doom at that point and just being oh my God, Doom's amazing.
Yeah.
And then, some friends had the 16-bit consoles by that point. So Super Nintendo, playing Mario World.
Yeah.
There's a great game called Stunt Race FX. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that one.
So that was one of the, not 3D effects. I'm going to forget it now. It's terrible. So basically, Super Nintendo had this bit of technology that allowed them to do polygonal stuff.
Okay.
And Stunt Race FX was one of these. So it had this sort of everything was polygonal. It was the same thing that was in the SNES Star Fox, I think.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I kind of was playing that, but then around the time that the consoles were kind of changing over, so like 89, 1991.
Yeah.
So I think Mega Drive was 1989, but didn't really take hold until later when they put Sonic on it.
Yep.
90 was Super Nintendo, so Mario World, etc. But I got the best birthday gift ever.
What is it?
In 1989, Nintendo Game Boy.
I never had a Game Boy.
Oh, mercy. Fucking Game Boy, Liz.
Was it black and white at the time?
Well, it was green and other green, wasn't it?
Yeah, green and green,
Green and different green.
I remember playing that
/ brownish.
And it was addictive. What games did you have?
Well, the ones that I remember that I got with it was Super Mario Land, which was excellent.
Yeah, that was great.
And Batman, the movie, the game. So it was ported from the NES version, and it's just a really great game, Sunsoft game.
Did it have Mr. Freeze in it?
No, Liz. 1989 Batman. We've talked about this, haven't we? You've got a deeply disturbing knowledge of the Batman movies that insist that they be merged together. Yes.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
That's Batman Returns, but I'll let you off.
What was the first Batman then? Sorry.
Michael Keaton and Joker, Jack Nicholson.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh my lord. Prince, full soundtrack.
No.
Okay, if you haven't watched it, go and watch 1989's Batman the movie, along with Liz, who can join you for that. So yeah, the Game Boy, I had Mario Land, I had Kirby's Dream Land.
Yeah, I remember that.
I love Kirby. And also, one of my favourites was Wario Land, the first one.
Really?
Which was technically Super Mario Land 3.
I didn't realise Wario went so far back.
Yeah, that was his first... I'm pretty sure that was his first thing. So they were just like, let's make we've got like to the third Mario Land game, and what we're going to do, let's just make a Bizarro thing. Let's make Wario. And they made it that. And it was just really... Yeah, it just felt great to play. It was really cool. And then around that time, you also had... like the really low down ports of Super Nintendo stuff.
Yeah.
So I had Donkey Kong Country.
Oh, yeah.
Mortal Kombat 2.
Yeah.
And obviously things like Tetris. And I had Link's Awakening, but I didn't understand what the hell was going on. So I didn't really play it that much.
Donkey Kong, though.
Donkey Kong,
Wasn't that just a beautiful game?
It's a gem. Like, rare in the 90s. Good lord.
It was just so vibrantly wonderful. And it was like the only game me and my cousin played together that we didn't fight. But I'll save that for my story.
All right. Alrighty. So yeah, jumping forward to like mid-90s.
Yep.
I finally went out of the dark ages into the multimedia world of Windows 95.
Wow.
Brand new computer.
Yeah.
Pentium 75.
Yeah.
Windows 95.
Yep.
There's mouse control of things. There's multimedia. There's video. There's audio. And I'm blown away by this whole new world of computing that I've never seen before.
Is this Encarta?
I was about to say, and I've got it written down, Encarta Mind Maze.
Yeah, wasn't that just the best thing ever? Yeah.
So Encarta, for those unfamiliar, was an encyclopedia CD-ROM. And, you know, it was all just marketed on, and all of the news, do you remember the news programs that were like, can you believe they have fit 36 volumes of an encyclopedia onto one single disc? Like, yeah, it's because the files are like 1 kilobyte. And you've got 650 meg to play with. But anyway,
it was a thing of wonder.
It was a thing of wonder. And it's funny because obviously they went up to a point with Encarta when the internet was just like, don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
But there was this thing, Mind Maze, which I've got written down, which was like a quiz game where there was like, you had to just, you know, go through different rooms and answer questions, you know, trivia questions. But they were all just about like, you know, just random things that were also on the disc. And there was just like a cheeky jester in the corner who was asking you the questions. But yeah, that was probably a low light of the gaming experience. But to name some others, Quake 96, obviously the first polygonal thing from id. Broken Sword. I've written down Broke Sword, which is not
what is that, Broke?
Broke Sword.
Broke my sword. Northern Edition.
Worms, obviously I talked about recently in the show. Dark Forces.
Don't remember that.
Star Wars first person shoot 'em up with the Doom engine. Either that or... yeah, one of those kind of like, you know, billboardy 3D engines. Mech Warrior, Little Big Adventure, Screamer, which was this awesome...
Screamer?
Like, yeah, it was like, you won't guess it, but it was a racing game.
Really?
Yeah, it was just a kind of like a 3D outrun, like precursor to like Sega Rally kind of style.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just really good. Warcraft 2, Command & Conquer, these early formative real-time strategy games talked about recently. And then again, more first-person shooters, so like Heretic, Hexen, Blood, all of these things that was just like really milking this Doom engine, like the popularity of Doom from like 93, 94 onwards.
Yeah.
Doom 2, Final Doom, all of these things were just like, just blowing up.
And still now. There's a new Doom coming out this year.
Yeah, Doom Eternal is coming out.
Everyone loves a bit of Doom.
Love a bit of Doom. And then basically I was then a PC gamer, like getting to a point where you're like, okay, can I justify upgrading?
Yeah.
And like I was learning to like build PCs and understand that. So I went from that P75 to like a couple of years later, 97, a Pentium 200 with MMX technology.
What that?
MMX technology. No one knew what it was. But they had a great TV ad.
Yeah.
And they had this racing game called Pod, which was like something or death, play or die, maybe. But basically, it was a terrible looking racing game, but just certain aspects of the 3D were faster than they could be in other things, because it was all still CPU. Now, around this time came 3DFX cards.
Okay.
No. If you're not a PC gamer, this won't mean anything to you. But 3DFX cards, basically the way PCs worked before 3D acceleration was that you had just one, like imagine, you have Intel graphics on your cheaper laptops now.
Mm-hmm.
They just did 2D. They couldn't do anything 3D. So you bought this 3DFX card to do like early OpenGL. So you plugged it in, and then you had this jumper cable that wrapped round and plugged into your 2D card to let them work together. It was mental and great. And so you bought the 3DFX card, and suddenly you had this like ability to do, at the time, quite intense 3D and texturing and stuff that you couldn't do before that. Because if you think about like Star Fox, these are just like, flat, coloured polygons.
Yeah.
But this was like, you can do UVing and apply textures to things. So that was where you got like, in the same way that N64 was doing like Turok and things like that, where you got like, there's textures on this 3D. This is pretty cool. So you started to get really interesting things with that, and certain games would be like, ready for 3DFX. So you would buy those games because like, I just spent 150 quid on this 3D card. I better buy all the games that use it.
3DFX. Yeah, that had a very catchy ad as well.
There's just tons of like super cheesy, late 90s ads for all of these things. And this was around the kind of like video nasty kind of like, games being censored time as well. So I've got like Carmageddon in my list.
Oh, I remember that one, yeah. That was on PS1 as well.
Yeah, exactly. Grand Theft Auto, first one. Mm-hmm. Postal, does that ring a bell?
I've heard of it, but I never played it myself.
So Postal was named after the phrase going postal, which basically meant to kind of go nuts on a massacre.
Yeah.
But I don't know why they said that postal workers would go nuts and murder people. Maybe there were people that did, and it was just named after that. People can correct me on that, I'm sure, but I don't know the etymology of the phrase. But there were just a really interesting like world of PC games happening at that time. So I've also noted down, like, again, Dark Forces 2, Jedi Knight, Duke Nukem 3D was out around then. I think that was like 96. Total Annihilation, which was that 3D real-time strategy I mentioned to you in the Command & Conquer episode. Yeah. Red Alert, the sequel to Command & Conquer, was out. And then just other random things like X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. So before that, you'd had like a standalone X-Wing game, standalone TIE Fighter game, and then they had this more high-res game where they brought it all together.
Like Alien versus Predator, but TIE Fighter.
I'm going to come to that.
Really?
You mentioned it.
Is it Colonial Marines?
No, I'm going to talk about it. Colonial Marines, Liz. We don't talk about that, do we? Well, these poor guys. I'm sure it was a lovely game. But yeah, MDK, which I'm going to cover in a future episode.
MDK?
You'll see. It was out on PlayStation as well. It was a game by Dave Perry, who did Earthworm Jim.
Love Earthworm Jim. That was a great game as well.
MDK was so good. And then Theme Hospital.
Yeah.
Classic Bullfrog. Along with Theme Park as well. Probably a couple of years earlier than that. 95, 96 era. And then probably my favourite game of all time, Interstate 76, which I'll definitely cover in a future episode.
Your favourite game of all time?
Yep.
You've never mentioned that.
I know, it's because I'm saving it for a future episode.
Interstate 76.
Hashtag spoilers.
Never even heard of that one.
Don't look it up, I want it to be surprising.
Is it about a long road?
It is. Well, it's about a surprisingly short road, and you'll find out why in the episode. Then around that time, my friend who had the NES carried on his kind of console track. So he had the PlayStation 1 and 2. So I experienced little bits of that. So I played a little bit of like the first Metal Gear, or he had the G-Con with Time Crisis.
Oh, the G-Con was beautiful.
Oh my goodness. Die Hard Trilogy.
Yes.
With the G-Con.
That was great. And then you put your name in, and when you did the level, if you got a high score, and then you go, yippee-ki-yay.
Yippee-ki-yay, Liz McCurry.
Yeah. It was great.
So yeah, and then, what else do we have on the PlayStation? Yeah, just like Wipeout and stuff like that.
Wipeout was also great.
I think I had Wipeout on the PC as well.
You were a PC gamer, but you definitely dabbled in the observation of console? Or were you more hands-on than that?
Oh, no, not really. I mean, it was just like half an hour at a friend's house kind of thing. So I was definitely really into the PC gaming community, like bought PC Zone magazine, PC Gamer magazine.
Yeah.
Even wrote into PC Zone.
Yes.
And I won a competition for something once. And then they didn't send me the whatever it was that I won. I think I won like a game or something for like a letter that I submitted.
Aww.
And they didn't send it to me. So my dad phoned up and he didn't go off at them, but he was just like, look, he's written in, he's trusted your magazine and he really loves it, buys all the issues. And I just think it's a bit out of order that you didn't send him this thing. And they sent me a steering wheel, a Thrustmaster joystick, and like a couple of games, and I was just like, this is the best thing in the world.
That's so sweet.
So I had like the steering wheel and the pedals, and I was playing like Screamer and Need for Speed 2 maybe, and it was so good.
What magazine was that?
That was PC Zone magazine.
PC Zone.
God bless him.
Oh, thank you, PC Zone, for making young Will happy.
A little cheeky fact for you, for those who don't know, Charlie Brooker of Black Mirror fame started out writing in PC Zone.
Seriously?
Yeah, he had a character in there that he'd write as a kind of like, kind of like just an angry guy who would reply to people who write in. It was real funny.
That sounds good. I knew he was a journalist, but I didn't know.
Yeah, PC Zone. And before that, I think I can't remember. Oh no, I'm thinking of, gonna forget his name. He wrote a bit of Rogue One. And he also wrote for CVG magazine in the 80s. And I'm terrible. Oh, Gary Whitta. There you go. Terrible with names. So yeah, anyway, getting back to the point, Liz. It's the turn of the century.
And Terminators are here.
Yeah. No, that's 97. That was Judgment Day. Anyway, 1999 sort of time.
1999 was a great year for games. Anyway, I'll shut up, sorry.
I'm talking Carmageddon 2. I'm talking Sin, Soldier of Fortune. A 3D first-person shooter where you could actually blow limbs off.
Oh, do you know
and it blew my mind.
Our 1999s were so different.
I know. I'm going to find out very shortly.
We had such different perspectives of games in 1999.
I was playing Quake 3 Arena. That was the first
do you remember that?
Really big multiplayer focused only Quake. I'd played Quake 2 before that. Bloody loved it. Absolutely. Half-Life. First Half-Life was coming out around then. GTA 2. Another kind of top down, wasn't as popular. The graphics just didn't grab people as much. It was all right. And then Alien vs Predator, which was
great,
fucking amazing.
Yeah,
Worms 2, Worms Armageddon, all of that stuff. And then from like end of the 90s to like 2002, I think I had like an early laptop, so I was mostly playing like less graphical intense things on this laptop. And then I was doing I still had my desktop PC that had my Voodoo card in it. And I might have upgraded it to a better Voodoo card at some point. I don't know. But I was playing like the first Hitman and Max Payne, that kind of era.
I love Max Payne.
So we can connect 2. On that, right?
Yeah, Max Payne 2 was great.
Yeah. And then, lest we forget, the absolute shock of GTA 3. Going for the first time into full 3D, you can drive around this giant city. Basically, I bought this game thinking, like, my computer's never going to run this.
Yeah.
This looks amazing. And I could run it. And I was like, it was one of those things where do you ever get like a bit of technology or gaming or something where you're just like, I can't believe this exists.
Yes, definitely.
This can't be, I'll probably have another one of those dreams where a game that I imagine will exist one day exists now. And it was
you have
just
all that power in your hands.
It was amazing. Like the first GTA, just like, because obviously GTA 2 was 2D and it was a bit slow, and it was just nothing compared to the third one, and it was just mind-blowing. And like, they put more character into it with Vice City and the ones that came after that, San Andreas, GTA 4 and 5, etc. But like the leap to the first GTA 3 was just like, could not believe what I was seeing. And then, around this time, so we're talking like I went to uni in like 2002 to 5. So I was still a PC gamer, but I then just got exposed to other things. So on my PC, I played like the first Battlefield 1942, which was like an amazing first person shooter.
Never played Battlefield in my whole life.
Have you not?
Nope.
You're not really an FPS.
No, it's not where my skills lie.
Fair enough. And then so at university, friends had a bunch of different consoles and backgrounds to me. So I had friends that had the GameCube.
Yes.
And so on GameCube, we would mostly play Super Monkey Ball.
Never played that.
And Beautiful Joe.
Beautiful Joe was great.
Fucking love Beautiful Joe. And then on PlayStation 2, we'd mostly play split screen Time Splitters, if you remember that.
Yeah, I remember Time Splitters, yeah.
And then my friend Sharky had the first Xbox. And so we just played a lot of all three Halo games at that time.
Yeah.
Even with the giant controller, I think, the early Xbox pad. And then I personally got, in addition to just, playing stuff over the laptop with like LAN or whatever, I got into Dreamcast.
Yeah, Dreamcast was like an unsung hero, right?
Yeah, which is kind of like come and gone by that point. But as a result, they were kind of in kind of bargain bins. So I picked up a lot of gems. So I played games like Jet Set Radio.
Blue Stinger.
No. What?
No?
Blue Stinger? What was that?
It was... Our games are so different. It's like we've both got these like smoke screens of
parallel
different
universe,
games. Yeah, it's like we're in different gaming parallel universes. It was like a survival horror. Surprise that I focused on that.
Weird.
And you were just this guy. I can't remember it very well, but you'd just go around beating monsters up with your fists. Why not? It looks like nothing like Shenmue. I don't know why.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a lot of
terrible comparison.
A lot of that kind of look on the Dreamcast, though, the sort of like high contrast, super colourful.
Yes, that's exactly what it was like.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You were like on an island and you had to punch monsters.
Okay.
Which is great.
Okay, so some of the others from my Dreamcast, like my favourites were Power Stone 1 and 2.
Never heard of that. What is that? Is it an RPG?
No, I've really never been into RPGs, hence my like ambivalence about Link's Awakening on the Game Boy. Like, what is this? I swoosh bushes for an hour? Like, what? I don't give a I swoosh the bush.
Swoosh bush.
And so Power Stone was think of Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
But instead of being on a 2D plane, it's on 3D. You've got a perspective camera, and you basically, the camera moves and the map sort of evolves, and you sort of go along a bit of a map, but you're fighting other people just on, top down or perspective camera.
Oh, wow.
Just beating up. It's like a brawler, 3D brawler, but it's a fighting game.
They're good.
And it is dead good, as you would say. Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Oh god, yeah, of course. They're classics, aren't they? Yeah.
And also Capcom vs. SNK.
Never played that.
I mean, they're just probably, to me, the pinnacle of fighting games. Because they're just beautiful sprite artwork, amazing responsive gameplay, just so good.
Again, I didn't realise that went as far back as Dreamcast.
Yeah.
That's bananas.
Bananas. And then my favourite... definitely my favourite sports game of all time.
Track and field.
No, Virtua Tennis 2.
Oh.
That's I didn't play it, or I remember that.
I've never played it, but I'm judging it. Because I can't imagine that a tennis game's very fun. But, no, but like, let's take a step back.
Let's take a step back.
I'm not very sporty, so I can't imagine that playing any sports game like FIFA, PES, Virtua Tennis. I can't imagine that any of them are fun because I don't enjoy them in real life.
If you'll permit me to explain why, I'm not sporty either. But when you play doubles on Virtua Tennis, and you spend a lot of time just fucking around and creating meta gameplay, which we did. So basically, like if you play doubles, we played this game where the person who wasn't serving or the person who wasn't receiving had to do a little lap around their teammate before they could return the serve and stuff like that.
That's good. I would have probably got into it.
Yeah, random little things, and we come up with phrases for what it all meant. It's just great. It's just a really good multiplayer game. We didn't really think about it being tennis. It was just like...
Okay.
That's and all of the characters, were just like... They were modern tennis players, but we were just so removed from it. We didn't know who the hell they were and just ascribed weird personalities to them. Yes, so that was my Dreamcast love. And again, because I was getting into consoles of the past at this point, like 2005 kind of era, I was getting into like the NES. I bought my own Mega Drive and all this stuff, and I would buy up like these retro games, some of which you've seen and will see. So I was playing like Streets of Rage, which is my favourite fucking thing in the world. And also with the NES, playing Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. We still had the CRT TV, which allowed it to work. Sonic, and just loads of 8-bit and 16-bit games. And then once I kind of, whilst I was doing that, I was still into PC gaming. And so I was playing like Doom 3, Call of Duty 2. And when I was a teacher in kind of like 2005-06, in our office, we would play multiplayer games. On a lunch break, we'd play tons of Halo, because that had come out on Mac, and we were like a Mac school. And so we'd play that and Call of Duty 2 every lunchtime for years, and it was just the best. And then, going on from there, I should preface this, but it's not postface this by saying that Liz and I agreed that we wouldn't go all the way up to present day. So I'm going to end with like a decade ago and say that, I was playing PC games like Half-Life 2, Fear, Hitman Blood Money.
Fear? You played Fear?
FEAR.
Yeah.
First Encounter Assault Recon.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's probably the only FPS I've played and finished.
Really? Yeah. You finished it? I didn't finish
Absolutely loved it. Yeah.
It's really good, isn't it?
It's great, yeah.
Loved them mechs. And also those ghosty things that would appear just when you turn around. Yeah, Fear was great, man.
Yeah, it was a great game.
And then, discovering Hitman with Blood Money, and then around 2007, like mainstays were like Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, of course being rebooted in 2019. Crysis, which was like amazing step forward.
What was Crysis?
Crysis was like the sequel to Far Cry. So Far Cry had been out,
of course,
a couple of years before.
Crytek.
Yeah, and then they basically really leveled up to make this futuristic sci-fi story shooter about sort of aliens and a war with aliens and being part of an elite group. And it had amazing technology behind it that, wasn't anything that you'd really seen before. A lot of skin shaders, eye shaders, and a lot of water technology, and a lot of things that were just like really next level stuff from Crytek. And it was just super impressive. And it was another one of these kind of like, if your computer can run this, like just, you want to crank up all the graphics settings. It just looked mind blowing. And it really was like they had sort of like early camera motion blur and all this other stuff that pushed next gen forward a bit. And was a lot of the stuff that you then saw coming up in, PS3 and Xbox 360 kind of era.
Yeah.
And then just to kind of leave off like my last kind of year in this tale that we have, the big things for me were Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, great game.
Dead Space, you love that.
Yep.
And then Stalker and GTA 4. And that's
what was Stalker?
Stalker was it was Stalker something of Chernobyl, Shadow of Chernobyl or something like that. Basically a game set around the region of Chernobyl. And it was all about kind of like, it was a first person sort of shooter, survival, apocalyptic set thing where your health and your weapons and everything would degrade, and you had to kind of, it was just really bleak, but it was just very cool and nicely done. And then of course GTA 4 was the big sequel after Vice City and San Andreas.
So if I was to ask you,
yes,
like modern day Will now, if you could go back to Will who was playing his first game, The Three Stooges,
oh man,
what game would you like tell your younger self about? Which game would you be like, hey, Will, you'll never guess
as in
what's
kind
going
of
to
like
happen?
Look forward to this?
Well, I guess in any respect. like something to look forward to, or just be like, oh, you're never going to believe that this is going to happen?
I think thinking about it, and I talked about it earlier, obviously, like GTA 3 was big.
Yeah.
That was something that I really thought was very special and kind of transformative into kind of what games could be.
Yeah.
Because there was so much to it. The 3D aspect was obviously mind-blowing, but there was also like incidental gameplay, side missions, all of this depth that you know, were then kind of things that I then wrote about in dissertations at university and stuff. Yeah. Just like, oh, this is crazy. So I think I'd probably talk about that to baby Will and tell him about that. But I'd probably also say, do you know what? You're also going to play amazing war games in Command & Conquer. You're going to play an amazing 70s blaxploitation style car fighting romp in the form of Interstate 76. And
car fighting?
Yeah. And car combat, vehicle combat, I should say. And then just, it's really hard to single this stuff out, but the world of PC gaming is so special to me and so transformative into like what my career has become, being in the games industry, and just the fascination with the technology that's behind games and the stories in which you can tell. And I feel super, super privileged to have experienced all of these amazing artworks over the years.
Yeah, for sure. I really enjoyed that because now I have more of an appreciation of where you came from.
Almost should have done that as episode 1, Liz.
I know. But I feel like it might have been too much of a...
Yeah.
Because I think
Kick the door in open.
Yeah, I think the games that we're into are clearly becoming like in a pattern as it goes on. Yeah. If we were to have done this from the beginning...
Yeah, spoilers.
Yeah, but now I understand and I just see how different we are.
Okay.
Which is fine.
We knew that already, though. We knew that going in.
If we both like the same games, this podcast would be really boring.
Yeah. Do you like Mario Brothers? Yeah, me too. It was great.
Who's your favourite character? Oh, yeah, same as me.
Yeah, Luigi. Right, Liz, please regale me with your computer gaming history.
Are you ready?
Also, I don't know if this sounds stupid, but I remember being a kid, and you know how people talk about, PC Master Race?
Yeah, I was going to mention that earlier.
Yeah. I was definitely bought into that at some point. I definitely went through a period of like first PlayStation and like Sega Saturn and N64 and all that, being really snooty about being like, just thinking like, oh yeah, you've got this like console thing, but we've got this on the PC. So it's like, oh, Mario 64, ha ha ha, we've got Half-Life, and it's amazing, and it's all this stuff, and it's kind of like, I look back at that and think that's kind of funny, and I even remember thinking like, oh yeah, video games, rubbish. I've got computer games. Yeah, that's what the real shit has, and I think that's where my kind of my snooty bullshit has come from. Just generally being a PC Master Race guy.
I was never... I dabbled in PC. It's not in my history.
How did you dabble in it? Give me a little background in that.
So I had Encarta, who didn't.
Yeah.
Windows 95.
Yeah, a lot of PCs were sold with, this comes bundled with Encarta 96 kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I remember getting like a compact Presario with
Yeah, we
Encarta.
had a compact, yeah.
Yeah.
And Theme Hospital as well. But that was it. That was my PC.
But was this like the family machine that was used by other members of the family for other things?
Yeah.
Right.
So that's where my PC stuff kind of ends. So when people were like, the PC Master Race, I just used to think, they do
my
build
mum's
them.
part of the PC Master Race.
My mum's definitely part of some Master Race. I'm not sure which one that is.
Anyway, Liz, it's not about your mum. Tell me about your gaming history that's not PC based.
I really want to get my mum on here to do her gaming history. So my story is very different to yours.
Mm-hmm.
So I never really knew about games, wasn't particularly exposed to them. No one at school. Especially in my primary school.
Now, I didn't bring this up. I'm sorry to cut you off early, but I didn't bring this up in mine. But did you ever go to arcades or experience arcades as a kid?
Yeah, so near where I grew up, there was an arcade called Meadow there was an arcade. There was a shopping centre called Meadow Hall in Sheffield, and that had a Namco arcade.
Nice.
But
was it actually branded like?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I always thought when you saw like, because there's like Namco Museum, like these collections of like, you know, Centipede and, you know, a bunch of other like older games. I didn't ever think they had a franchise in the actual ownership of sites kind of thing.
This was, to my recollection, a Namco arcade, and it was replaced by a cinema years later. But whenever like me and my friends would go there, they just wanted to play air hockey, so I'd usually play the games on my own.
Fair enough.
So yeah, I didn't. What did you? Where did you grow up?
I grew up.
You're a southern boy, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a southern boy. I grew up in a small town called Ipswich. But when we go to the seaside in Felixstowe or Lowestoft, these little towns, there were like, you know, you go into these arcades and have like the coin machine.
Yeah.
Where there's
the
occasionally a 2p piece dropping
down. Get a new key ring.
Yeah, exactly. All of this terrible shit. But no, I remember seeing things like Outrun.
Outrun was good, yeah.
And stuff like that on arcade. And I'm like, oh, okay, they look really interesting. It's like maybe the first Street Fighter before 2.
Yeah.
And thinking, oh, that's really impressive. And then like just a few times ago, years on years, so like seeing things like, you know, SNK games like Metal Slug and stuff like that. We'd be like, oh, this looks really interesting. But I never really got it. Like I'd play like, I'm thinking back to like Road Rash and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then, you know, you had like MotoGP with the bikes in the arcade.
Yeah.
So stuff where there was like interesting hardware would always attract you and be like, oh, I really plan to play the game. But I think I did as a little kid what a lot of other kids did, which was just like to hold like the gun thing, not play the game, but pretend you were playing whilst it was in a track mode.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
So those of you too young for arcades or never went to arcades, a track mode was basically what the game was doing to kind of get you to come and play it, which would show you like a demo of the level being played, and you were like, oh, this looks sick.
Like
I need
House
to put in
Dead
a pound. House of the Dead was exactly that.
We had House of the Dead in our student union for my undergrad.
What, the arcade? Or?
Yeah, the arcade machine. And me and a guy called Brett, I don't think he'll mind me saying his name, we used to go in there and for like one whole year of uni, we had the high score. And I remember, I think it was one St. Patrick's Day, and we were drinking green Guinness. Someone beat us, and Brett was really angry about it.
So he beat them?
Physically. No, I'm kidding. That went dark. But yeah, even though I've been into games for a while, I've never been a big arcade person. Like when I went to Japan many moons ago now.
Sploosh.
They had this Silent Hill arcade game that I'd never seen since.
Oh.
And I'd played that probably spent most of my holiday in Japan there, actually.
What, on the arcade?
On the Silent Hill arcade.
Oh, wow.
But that was like, how old am I? That was like over 10 years ago. But now apparently they have like this Evangelion VR thing.
What?
So you get in and like the whole machine fills up, like your visor fills up with the liquid.
Oh,
and
my
like
days. I need to go to Japan for that specific reason alone. I love Evangelion, Liz.
It's just on Netflix, isn't it?
I'm a little bit afraid to watch it on Netflix because everyone is whining about it.
Well, they've changed the sub and the dub, haven't they? For like,
And they've unfortunately fallen prey to the streaming issue of like, oh, there's licenses for various bits of music and other things, apparently.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Because they've changed the ending.
Oh, yeah, this happens to
a
ton of streaming stuff. It's just that music licenses elapse because basically when films were put onto VHS and DVD, they had like a finite license for a song used in a film.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, this is why things change in streaming.
I'm glad that they didn't do that with Cowboy Bebop, because if the music changed in that would have been tragic.
You cannot change the bebop. I mean, that and like the I remember like in 95 reading like Manga Magazine and all of that kind of stuff that was coming over at that time. You had like Pat Labor and Ghost in the Shell and all these things. So
and Aeon Flux and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah, exactly. And you had that influence in a few games as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
I know we chatted about like that kind of influence in the game .hack when we were talking about maybe putting this podcast together. But yeah.
And it's kind of similar to Galarians that you did last week.
Yeah, absolutely. 1,000,000%.
Definitely an anime influence. Anyway, sorry.
But yeah, he likes Evangelion, but he doesn't watch anime.
Of Crazy. Tell me about your games, Liz.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's what.
Do you remember what we're here for?
Yeah, sorry, I was just enjoying that little pop culture jaunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't really have any exposure to games growing up. Never really got into the PC side of things, and never got into the technical side of things like you did, or part of the Master Race. Also, you have shamed me in the amount of research that you did for this. I
googled PC games 1998, PC games 1999, and I went, I remember that, write it down.
What I did was I went away and was like, what were the games that like defined me?
I'm going to be honest with you, I think the audience is going to appreciate that, because they probably just listened to me list like 20 games they hadn't heard of.
So I've picked, I think there's 9 games in this, but I'm sure as I remember more, I'll throw them on it.
Great.
So imagine me, I think I was 8 or 9, I think. It was a Christmas when I just got these Lion King pyjamas, and I was really pleased with them. I've got nothing to do with games, but there's this really cute picture of me looking really proud of my Lion King pyjamas. Which reminds me, do you know there's loads of people who are in the games industry, and they got into the games industry because they played games forever, and they've always got this picture of them with their first computer stood there.
Yeah, I don't have that.
I don't have one either.
It's gutting, isn't it?
And if you did get my first picture of me with my first computer,
it would have been in the Lion King pyjamas.
It would have been in my Lion King pyjamas, and it would not have been a happy face.
With your dad standing over you being like, everything the light touches.
Yeah. So yeah, picture this. Like I'm about 8 years old, it's Christmas morning, in my Lion King pyjamas, and all I wanted was, I think that was the year when I was really into Mighty Max and Action Men, and my mum was just like,
wait, Mighty Max?
Yeah.
Or Mighty Mouse?
Mighty Max.
What's Mighty Max?
Mighty Max was the male version of Polly Pocket. Do you remember? And
I remember Polly Pockets. Weirdly remember the reverse genders of each other's toys.
Mighty Max he was this little blonde guy with a red cap, and he would go through a portal into another dimension, and they were like the male, very gendered, I shouldn't say that, but well, obviously not, because I wanted one for Christmas. And you could get a shark one, surprisingly, and so each Polly Pocket Mighty Max was a monster, and then you opened it up and it had a little world in there, and you had the little figures to go around.
Yeah, I remember these were like little diorama toys of like what their universe was. But yeah, Mighty Max is like teasing like the finest fibre of my brain.
There was a cartoon as well. There was a cartoon that came like in the 90s, I think.
Yeah.
Might be getting... Yeah, because this was like early 90s. This was early 90s.
So this is like Ninja Turtles.
Oh, yeah.
Era, or maybe before
Street
that.
Street Sharks. Yeah, this is like the era of the early 90s when we were kind of becoming our young selves.
So this is like where anime has kind of come over, then the Americans have kind of remade it into the cartoon influence. So
absolutely.
Like Pirates of Dark Water, and then later Johnny Quest and stuff like that.
Johnny Quest, yeah.
Okay.
That's all I wanted. I wanted the snake one. There was a snake one. Didn't get that.
Merry Christmas, Liz.
Yeah.
You've got...
So I opened this box, and it was this white box with like... It looked like maths paper. You know?
I know what you're going to say. You had grid paper with the Sega logo
I did,
on it.
and I opened it, and I'm like, what is this?
Were you really that acerbic a child? What is this, Dad?
I actually said
what
that.
What is going on?
I was so confused. And so I'm there, and I've opened... My dad looks like he's grinning like an idiot. I'm there like, what is this? My mum's like, what is this?
Your dad's like, I spent 200 quid on this.
It's already open, so clearly my dad's been playing it. And I'm just like...
Oh, well, he'd opened the box and
the
put
box
it back
was
together.
open, yeah. And so I was like, don't know what this is. So my dad like...
Well, I suppose you wouldn't, would you?
No!
This is before you probably would have read, computer game magazines.
Yeah.
I apologise. Video game magazines.
Video games.
Second class, but fine. But, like what you wouldn't know, like, oh my God, I got a Sega Master System.
Yeah.
It was only really when the conversation at school started up was like,
I didn't talk
Mega
about
Drive, console wars kind of thing.
So I'm there, like, not got my Mighty Max. My dad's there, clearly
loving it.
I can imagine the conversation between him and my mum of, oh, I really want a Sega Mega Drive. And my mum's like, you are not wasting your money on that. And my mum going, Liz wants one. Oh, it's Christmas, you better get her what she wants.
Oh, right, okay.
You know, and my dad goes...
You said Mega Drive then. Did you mean the Master System? Or did you want the Mega Drive, but he got you the previous generation?
No, I had the Master System.
Okay.
I had the Master System. What did I say?
You said Mega Drive, yeah.
I never had a Mega Drive.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry about that.
Just a typo.
Both got M's in the name.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't want it.
So why did your mum go, oh, Liz wants that?
No, what I was saying was that my mum was like, don't buy one. And so my dad was probably like, oh, but Liz wants one for Christmas. And my mum was like, oh, it's Christmas, you better get her one.
So Liz has put the mum in place of the dad and the Mega Drive in place of the Master System. If you can follow all that.
If you're following.
And like me, you are a Liz Mercury whisperer, you'll be fine. Keep listening to the show. Please subscribe, rate 5 stars. Liz.
All I'm saying is, I didn't want a Master System, but my dad did, so I got one. Right?
Okay.
So what did we do on Christmas Day?
I imagine you probably played the included game Alex Kidd.
Alex the Kid?
We argued about this before the show because Liz brought this up. It is Alex Kidd in Miracle World, not Alex the Kid.
It's
not Billy's brother.
Billy Hatcher.
Billy the Kid.
It was Alex Kidd in Miracle World. It was, and it was the 1986 one. Obviously, I had the Master System. So Christmas Day was me going, really want my Mighty Max, and my dad going, let's set up this Master System and see if you like it.
This video game console on the television.
And I just basically watched my dad play Alex Kidd for about 4 hours.
He'd been playing that for about 4 hours on Christmas Eve before.
Like, it's not what I wanted. So anyway, Dad's finished. He goes and has his Christmas dinner. I'm left there, and I'm like...
Was that the only game you had? Because it was the pack-in. You didn't...
It was the only game I had at the time, but another game came later that started a bit of an obsession. So I was going to say
Sonic the Hedgehog was in late Master System, but didn't come out until the Mega Drive was out.
Never had Sonic.
Okay, well, this is it. I was going to say you wouldn't have had it, but the Master System had a couple of other interesting things, like it had its own light gun and stuff. But
no, never had that.
If you didn't have any of that, it might have seemed a little bit shoddy.
So my dad's gone. He's having his turkey, and I'm there like.
Why aren't you at Christmas dinner?
Probably really sad and just got bottom lip out about it. So I thought I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
First thing, really fun. Second thing, the music still sticks in my head till this day. And that's why I think it's Alex the Kid, because it's got that extra in it.
Oh, because you did what everyone does with early video game music once, was to ascribe the lyrics to Alex the Kid.
Yeah.
Alex the Kid.
Yeah. And there was that, and I always remember there was a bit in it where you had to play rock, paper, scissors to get past...
Rock, paper, scissors, rock, paper, scissors.
No,
okay,
the rock, paper, scissors... I don't know how I still remember this. I've not played this game since I was 8, but it used to go... And then on the you'd put out whether you had rock, paper, scissors.
Nice.
Anyway, it was great. But it was really difficult, so my dad had to do the underwater levels. So then we actually started playing it together and having a lot of fun.
Oh, that's nice.
And I eventually got my Mighty Max as well. Oh. So I think it was a few months later, my dad said... My dad must have said to my mum, do you know what Liz really wants? Mortal Kombat 3. So me and my dad just used to play Mortal Kombat 3. I must have been about 8 or 9. Absolutely loved it. I used to get so into it that when I used to press like the button to kick, I used to kick my own leg. And at that point, when my mum saw me like swarming about in the living room, she put it away. She unhooked it, she put it back in the box. She was like, it's too violent and look what it's doing to it. So
look what it's doing to poor little Liz.
So Dad was
waggling
annoyed.
Around.
Yeah, Dad was annoyed. I wasn't best pleased. And that was so Alex Kidd and Mortal Kombat 3 was my first, in a disappointed Christmas, was my first exposure to like what computer games were.
Well, that's a wonderful story. I kind of want this to end with being like, and my dad used to sneak us into a room where we'd unbox it and play
No, I think he was just scared of what my mum would do.
Oh, fair enough.
So then, you know, this set of precedents, I guess, that my mum just was not tolerant of computer games. Oh, no, not at all. She was just not pleased. So I used to have to be a voyeur. So my mum worked full time, so I would go to my auntie's every day after school with my two cousins who I've spoken about before.
Yeah, you mentioned them, you know, you're playing things on the PS1 with them.
Yeah, so either them or my friend Rebecca, I would go around to her house. And again, I guess it sounds very gendered, but I didn't have a console. My female friends didn't have consoles, but my male cousins and their brother and my friend's brothers did.
Yeah.
So we would just hang around and watch them play games.
Yeah.
And so one of the first games that I watched, like my friend's brothers play, was Ocarina of Time on the N64.
Oh, okay. So that's quite a leap from Master System.
And just loved it. Just loved the art style, just loved the music. Me and Beck and her brother David we just spent hours together, just passing the pad, playing it, helping each other sort puzzles. And then I'd go home, and then the next weekend when I went over, we'd kind of catch up to where everyone had got to, and we went through and finished it.
Oh, so
together.
They waited for you and you carried on together?
No, they would carry on, and then they'd catch me up when I got back.
Nice.
They'd be like, oh, this has happened, and whatever.
Oh, cool.
So this was like N64. At the same time, my cousins, Chris and Richard, had like everything going. They had literally everything. They had like the PS1, they had the Master System, they had the Mega Drive, they had Sega Saturn, they had everything.
Sega Saturn and a PlayStation.
Oh, they had everything.
I mean, if you weren't really out for Panzer Dragoon and some of the other like Saturn exclusives, there's not a whole reason to do that if you had a PlayStation.
No.
Interesting.
So Ocarina of Time, so we're talking about mid to late 90s, so...
Ocarina's what? 96?
Ocarina was 98.
Oh, 98? Really? Okay.
So Ocarina was 98. And then the thing that I used to watch at my cousins, because my cousins were a bit older than me, was Resident Evil. First Resident Evil for PlayStation.
Yes, my friend James, who had the PlayStation, or at least his older brother had the PlayStation. I really remember the first Resident Evil and
just brilliant.
Yeah, just being like, what is this kind of 3D? Because I still had my old PC at that point, so I had like 2D games and maybe like Doom or something. But then you saw this thing with like, you know, the 3D of the door opening and like the steps. Really slow.
And going up the stairs.
So good. And that dog popping out of the wall. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, when you go to try and escape from the mansion and the dog, so I loved Ocarina of Time because I played it with friends and it was really lovely. I liked the story and it was really vibrant and beautiful. And it's a classic game and it is one of the pinnacles of my gaming history. But Resident Evil was the pinnacle of my gaming history. It was the turning point for me. Because
sorry, go.
No, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, is this because it's a pivot from a toy to an entertainment?
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So, Resident Evil was the first game that had made me wonder why I was scared.
Okay.
So, like, me and my cousin, Chris, would just sit and play it together. And the thing that was nice about it was that it was, I mean, how old must we have been? I was probably 11-ish, and Chris is a few years older than me. The main guy in Resident Evil is called Chris. There's a girl and a guy.
The Redfield.
And so me and my cousin are super close and we were like, it's like us, like how would we be if we were trapped in this mansion together? So we just used to play it together and just love it and get so into it. And we would both genuinely be scared and be passing the controller between us. And I was just like, I've never felt this way about any entertainment medium. Like watched like films and TV shows, listened to music, but I've never felt this like engrossed and invested in something before.
Wow.
And so I was just like, why does it make me feel this way? And so that was like my turning point of games are so much more than just like a passive media, and like there's so much more that goes into making them than is just like what I'd been exposed to when I was younger.
Yeah.
And so that was like the start of an obsession for me.
It's really interesting, isn't it? How that leap to 3D and the opportunities to convey something a bit more similar to film.
Yeah.
Actually meant, you know.
The camera angles, the music, sound design.
Everything that's like different, like or parallel to the gameplay. It's really interesting. I mean, you think about like where games came from, like Tennis for Two on an oscilloscope, going to Pong, then going to Mario Brothers, then going to like all these different leaps forward. Like you can definitely argue that Metal Gear Solid and Resident Evil, all these kind of things were just like a point that made people think, oh, okay. And I think that's actually what solidified definitely Sony and the whole PlayStation
for sure.
thing is going forward. Do you know for anyone who's listening, interesting factoid about the PlayStation was that Sony were going to do the next console with Nintendo.
Really?
So you can find, there's like a couple of pictures of a CD-ROM, like successor to Super Nintendo, which was a Sony and Nintendo collaboration. And there was basically Nintendo and Sony kind of had this agreement, but like not a formal legal agreement. And then at one, like an E3 type event, they basically came out and were like, oh, actually, we're doing this totally different thing. And that left Sony kind of like totally in the dark. And that game, they basically, because obviously, you know, Japan has this kind of culture around honor and all this kind of stuff. They took it as an absolute snub and were like, okay, we're going to do our own console.
Wow.
And they had to do a really quick turnaround. And then they developed the PlayStation because they were snubbed by Nintendo.
Seriously?
Yep.
Wow, I didn't know that.
It's a really interesting story. You can go read the actual details. I probably really flubbed that, but it's a really interesting backstory. If you read up like the Nintendo PlayStation, Google that, you'll see like what it was.
I'm going to have a look at that.
It's really cool because you see this kind of like bizarro hybrid thing where it's like a CD drive, a bit of a logo, and then a bit of a pad that looks a bit like the SNES.
That's crazy.
It's great. But yeah, you were talking about Resident Evil. We're around 96, Capcom era.
That was the turning point for me. And I just became obsessed. And like my cousin would do things like he would say, oh yeah, when you weren't here, I found this cheat where... So do you know at the beginning of Resident Evil when you come into the hallway and you see the zombie for the first time? Is that iconic scene where the zombie turns around to look at you? Yeah. My cousin was like, oh yeah, while you were away, I found this cheat where you could look through the wall and see how that guy turned into a zombie, but I can't remember it now, so I can't show you. It was obviously a lie, but just all of this fed my obsession as to the story and the lore and who made this and how the music was the way it was and how it all knitted together. It was like my first fascination to how was this made.
It's a sensory overload, isn't it, really? Because like you look at pixels on a screen and you hear MIDI kind of like bleeps and bloops and it's like the catchy tunes and stuff, but you're like, this is like a toy come to life.
Yeah.
It's not another world necessarily. Like I feel like we almost like imbue the 16-bit and the 8-bit eras with way more actual meaning than they actually had at the time.
Yeah.
You know how you'll read things like Stephen Poole and some of these more like academic readings of games at the time. I actually think that when we were that age, it didn't mean that much. And as much as you can be like, yes, and you know, when I played, you know, Super Mario Brothers, I thought about this incredible world of the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah.
I don't think we did. I think that it was really just like, it was like toys to life kind of thing. And I think that when we, you know, took that leap into 3D and there was all of the different like, you know, hardware and software trying to figure out how to actually navigate this thing.
Yeah.
Which is why you got, you know, Mario 64 felt amazing because of the simplicity of the controls and the responsiveness. And then Resident Evil, like you mentioned, felt really kind of like odd because of the tank controls, but that added to the tension because you couldn't maneuver as quickly as you wanted to
get out the danger. Yeah, so I loved it. So that was the turning point for me. And so this was like 96. And so I would go to my mum and I'd be like, oh, so I played this at Chris and Richard's and it's really great. And like I'd really like one too. And she was just like, no, you're not having a console. It's just not happening.
So I'm thinking back to your date. She'd vetoed this for like...
years.
Yeah, like 5 to 8 years.
And she's a fiery Italian woman. Like, you don't argue with her.
But she had no respect for Mario and his brother Luigi Mario.
She was just
Had you seen the documentary Mario Brothers with Bob Hoskins?
She was one of the Mario clan.
Mario Curie.
Mario Curie. I'm making my mum sound like an awful woman. She's like literally the sweetest woman in the world. And she totally supports games 1,000,000% now. But like growing up, it was a hard fight. So I used to go around to my cousins. I used to go around to my friends, and I used to buy this magazine called Play.
Yeah.
And I have got boxes and boxes. I've probably got every issue almost of that magazine.
You kept them.
I kept them all. I used to write into them.
Awesome.
I loved that magazine, and
I wish I'd kept my mags.
I love it. Play magazine, because I had no. This is such a sad story. I had no like allies in it. You know, It was almost like this forbidden thing. So I'd write into magazines, and I'd get a print. They'd print back and respond to my letter, and it'd be like the best thing because. You know, I didn't have friends to talk to about it because it was my friends' brothers that were playing them, and
you didn't know them. You knew their sisters.
Yeah, and like me and my cousins would play, but you know, as I got older, I went there less and less, and so it was this real like foreign world, really, which I felt quite alone in, and I was like, who plays games? I really want to play.
But do you think like the way that I felt about that, and growing up from. You know, like the mid-90s to mid to late 90s where the internet became a thing, I felt like the magazines were the precursor to finding a way to relate to people.
Yeah.
Like one of the favourite things in those magazines was the letter section. Cause
it was my favourite.
Because you'd be like, oh, I could have written that because I also love...
I played that bit and I know how.
I love Billy Lee from Double Dragon as well. He's my favourite. Fuck Jimmy Lee. Anyway, but yeah, I just, you know, and then, you know, as soon as you got into like the internet and, you know, these dial-up things, late 90s, it was just this opportunity to be like, oh, I can find, you know, message boards and forums and IRC chat channels where you can talk about games that you like. And suddenly, because like I said, I grew up in a small town, but not even in the small town. I grew up in a village near farms outside that.
Yeah.
So we were really far removed. My mate up the road who had the consoles, that was it.
Yeah.
Didn't know anyone else. I knew one other guy cursorily who had a console.
Yeah.
But nothing else.
So yeah, you can relate to how I was feeling at that time.
Yeah, I imagine and especially from the and I mean I can't relate from the gender standpoint, but I imagine that you felt even more of a rare unicorn, like looking into this like male dominated world through the prism of the magazine.
Yeah, for sure. So like, what's this? So 1999, I've been hassling my mum for a PlayStation, right? Because I'm probably early teens now.
Yeah, and you're first PlayStation?
First PlayStation.
So you're, PlayStation 95, so you're like 4 years into that console.
By the time I got my first PlayStation from hassling my mum so much, the PlayStation 2 was coming out the next year. So I was like right on the cusp of like PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. So...
You were right on the cusp of being able to convince your mum that, look, it's cheaper now. The other one's coming out as well, then.
Yeah. So 1999 was the year for me because that year was when I got my PlayStation.
And you were like, look, Mum, we're all going to die from the Millennium Bug anyway.
Yeah, you might
as well play a game.
So it got to the point where... Because it got to the point where I was like... either at my cousins, at my friends, or spending all of the money I had on these magazines. And so she was just kind of like... I remember the conversation, actually. Like, it's weird. She was kind of like, it's not a phase, is it? And I was like, no. I genuinely love and really want to play games. It was a really weird conversation.
Well, I suppose for adults at the time...
Yeah.
The exposure's very different.
Yeah.
Like, you could choose to buy... magazines as a kid, but I imagine that as adults, you know, you go to a supermarket or a newsagent, magazines and fads and trends probably come and go.
Yeah.
And so the magazines that spin up around them come and go.
And
but
that's
with
what
video games, that was slowly building, but it's not like you know, there was one for each platform, and then there was the official one, right?
Yeah.
So you had Play, but then you
Play
had official PlayStation magazine. Like you had CVG and Games Master, which were multi-platform.
Yeah.
But then you also had like Nintendo Power and what was it called? Oh, Mega something or other, which was the, Sega official magazine. I think that's right. But there were the few, but I doubt that as an adult you really thought about like, oh, this is really huge. You'd probably hear on the news like, oh, this computer thing. But computers in the news were mostly about, the advances in computing and some of that kind of tech. But, for us, until there were, shows like Bad Attitude or like Games Master and stuff like that later, which your parents wouldn't have watched because it was scheduled around cartoons, right? So it was kind of like a hidden world from adults, I would say.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think it's one of the things I'm a big advocate for, just in general, that just the perception of games and games being a viable career, I think it's much more than just kind of the education system. I think it's actually the education of parents as well.
Interesting.
And there's more on that in my gaming story later.
Okay.
So 1999, finally convinced my mum to get me a PlayStation. I get my PlayStation. I don't think I've ever been so happy. I remember it. I remember running down the stairs because I heard my mum come in and I knew she was getting me one.
How did you know?
Because we'd had the conversation. It was a conversation. Like, I'm going to get you this.
A negotiation, it sounds like.
Yeah. And she'd got me Resident Evil 3.
Okay.
Because this was my birthday. 22nd September is when Resident Evil 3 came out. And I don't know if it was at the time or later, she got me Final Fantasy VIII.
Okay.
Which is
your favourite.
My favourite game ever made. And it was on 4 discs, which blew my mind. And
just imagine the content.
4 discs. I can't remember. I don't remember any point of my gaming history in which I've been happier than that moment.
Wow.
Just sitting down, getting my PlayStation.
I think the same way about the day I got the Game Boy with Batman and Super Mario Land as, well, probably 4 o'clock, 4 p.m. Because I got it in the morning.
Yeah.
And I was like, mind is blown. It's here. I own one of these now.
Yep.
I've just entered like a different class of person. Like I'm just, get out of my way. This is amazing. And then my mum was like, shut, you gotta go to school now. I'm like, well, mum.
Yeah. You don't know how important this is.
School's great and all that, but I'm a game boy now, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And she's like, go to school. And I'm like, but, I mean, great. I mean, I'm taking this to school, right, to play it at school. And she's like, no, it was expensive. Don't take it to school. What if you lose it or someone steals it? I'm like, but between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m, it's quite a few hours, Mum. I don't even really quite appreciating.
I can't not be away from this thing.
Yeah, I'm just like holding it and shaking, probably.
No, I completely understand. I used to. So I finished Resident Evil 3. Like, I think I just speedrun it in one night.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So my mum, rightly so, was right to have banned the Mega Drive.
Master System.
The Master System, when she did.
Yeah, Master System and Alex Kidd, those terrible, gory games.
No.
But Resident Evil 3 that she bought you.
Wait. So she banned the first one because of Mortal Kombat 3 in my twitchy leg.
But then you got the leg perfectly down and could play Resident Evil without wibbling.
When I played Resident Evil, finished it, bish bash bosh, great game, love it.
Yep.
Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh.
My favourite game in the world. Like that and Silent Hill 2 are on par as I think the 2 best games ever made, in my opinion. So what I used to do, I used to come in from work. I used to come in from school. I'm talking about
I used to come in from the mine where I'd been mining coal.
I used to come in from school. I didn't eat. I used to get a pint of water, go upstairs, put my radiator on. I used to sit with my back to the radiator and drinking the water and just play the game. And
So you were a perfect balance of hydration and warmth.
Yeah.
I was just checking why that detail was included.
Do you know because this was my routine. Okay. And do you know the, what was it called?
DualShock.
The DualShock, but it had the vibration in it.
DualShock was the first one. Because before that, it was just the D-pad and the buttons.
Yeah.
DualShock brought in the
DualShock bring in the vibration?
dual analog sticks. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So what I used to do was, so with Final Fantasy VIII, every time you summoned a Guardian Force and it did the cutscene of the Guardian Force attacking, the DualShock would shake. And I used to play that game for so long with
you'd have wobbly hands.
Yeah, that I'd have the shakes. I'd have my radiator, I'd have my back against the radiator, drinking my water, and I'd have the shakes.
I like the idea that you've just got these like barbecue style like burnt lines on your back and your arms. Like, why do you look like a chicken fillet now, Liz? Like, what's going on?
So my mum used to like actively
switch off the heating.
She used to sign me up to swimming lessons so that 3 nights of the week I wouldn't be doing that.
Cool, so you could cool your back too.
Yeah, could cool my burnt back and have more water. So rightly so, she was worried, but anyway, so that was that. So this was 99. It was like my gaming. This is why our 99s are so different. This was like my gaming year. So there was Galarians, there was the first Silent Hill, which I loved. That was just fantastic. Started playing that through with my cousin Chris, but he was just like, Resident Evil did it for me. We didn't finish it. I carried on and finished it. 99 was a great year for games. So I started getting into the big games then, and one that I kept hearing about was Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
So, I'm a year late to the party of Metal Gear Solid. I'm playing it. I'm loving it. My friend Sarah, her brothers were playing it. I used to go to them for advice on how to finish it. I was playing Psycho Mantis, and this was...
You mean you were battling Psycho Mantis? Or...
Yeah, sorry, I meant I was playing against him.
Okay.
And I just couldn't figure out how to beat this guy. So this was still around the time where I had no gaming friends. It was just me and my magazines and my burnt back and water. And I was at school just talking to anybody who would listen. Just seeing...
Just on a box with a megaphone going... Has anyone got any idea how to beat Psycho Mantis on the Sony PlayStation?
That's pretty much what it was like. And so, just anyone who would listen. I was just thinking, anyone who has a fresh pair of ears about this predicament I'm in that might have some good advice. And I remember I was sat in physical education, my obviously favourite lesson.
The idea that you went sat in physical education.
Yeah, I did nothing.
Not running around in physical education.
Never. And so I can't remember who the girl was that I was talking to, but I was boring her with it. And I was like, what did you do at the weekend, Liz? Oh my goodness, I'm so glad you asked. I'm stuck on this boss.
Mantis, he's a bloody nightmare.
So I'm talking to this girl. She's going like glassy-eyed. She couldn't care less. This girl behind me reaches over, taps me on the shoulder. And she was like, and this is true story.
Amazing.
She's one of my best friends still to this day.
Was it the first time you'd met her?
Yeah.
Oh, I love this story already.
Taps me on the shoulder and she's like, oh, excuse me, are you playing Metal Gear Solid and are you talking about Psycho Mantis? And I almost cried.
So you punched the girl you were talking and turned around to the other one?
I almost cried and I was just like, oh my, yeah, I am. And she was like, oh, you just need to put the controller in the other slot. And from that day, we were inseparable. And we just used to hang out with each other. We played Final Fantasy VII through together. We just were thick as thieves. And we both have the Foxhound logo tattoo as a friendship tattoo. Because...
I didn't even know this.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Because it's how we met. And she was my first game friend. Cool. No, I had no one to talk to about that shit.
Super
and I was
cool.
like, Psycho Mantis, you dick. Heather took him down.
Wicked.
So Metal Gear has a very special place in my heart because I made a game friend and we're still friends and we have friendship tattoos and it's great. So that was 99. So the last thing that I wanted to finish off with in my gaming history, second to last actually. No, I've got a few bits.
Hit me with it.
I've got a few anecdotes. So the first thing is that before I met Heather, who is my gaming friend, I used to force games on other people. Did you ever do that? Is that just me being an awful person?
Well, I would enthuse a lot, and then I would just be... It's interesting because I would... Like I mentioned the PC Master Race thing earlier, where I'd just be like, oh, you've got you've got an N64, you've got a PlayStation. Well, you can't even understand, but on PC we've got this thing. And then like 6 months to a year later, it would get ported.
Yeah,
I remember being really snooty about Command and Conquer.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned how I was like, super into it in the last episode, but then my mate who had the PlayStation and Metal Gear, they got a port of Command and Conquer, but Command and Conquer is all about like selecting units and sending them to a location, and it's really like mouse and keyboard heavy.
Yeah.
And so when he got it, and I think we just played it on like you get a demo disc on the front of magazines.
Yes, they were the best.
Exactly. So he got the Play magazine or whatever PlayStation magazine official one with the Command and Conquer demo on.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, James, you got to play that. Command and Conquer is amazing." He was like, "Oh, okay." But then you had to sort of like move the D-pad because it was before DualShock. Move the D-pad to draw out a little selection box to select your soldiers, and then send them to another location. Well, how else are you going to select
that's a good
things?
point, actually.
Exactly. So like, and I think as a result, they'd actually either that or the hardware, they'd slowed the game pace down a lot to allow you to play it properly. And so it was just like, so that I think like really got me into this snooty, holier than thou PC thing. Like, I see your PlayStation version, but yeah, it's not for me. I'll stick to my computer games. Thanks a lot. Yeah. So yeah, I was a dick about it.
So the other thing that I wanted to add before I added the last bit of my game
before you
history.
ice the cake.
Yeah, I'm going to stop at 2001.
Yeah, I think stopping at around that time is good.
So Heather, my Metal Gear Solid friend, my Psycho Mantis killer, she kind of gave me the confidence to be like, okay, other people do play games. It's not just me, and people will listen to me. So while I was looking for a job over the summer, I went and applied to Game in my local store.
Was it Game then, or was it?
It was Game. It used to be Electronics Boutique, but then they changed.
Absolutely.
And the manager of Game at the time is like literally one of my best friends in the world now.
Oh, cool.
Jamie.
Shout out to Jamie.
Yeah, he's just such a ledge. And I know I play a lot of obscure games, and a lot of games that people haven't heard of. But the reason for this is that me and Jamie just got on super well and always have. And so what we used to do every dinner at Game was we used to go and get a KFC.
Just a quick thing. Dinner in the north means lunch.
For lunch, we used to go and get a KFC. And then we used to go upstairs into the stockroom and see what people had traded in that week. Pick out the obscurest game we could find.
Oh, yes.
And then play it upstairs on our lunch break.
Nice.
And so that's how, we found Beatdown. There's a lot of other things that may be in the podcast.
Bullet Witch you've mentioned. Liz is trying to convince me that Bullet Witch is a thing. I'm still not
Michigan Report from Hell.
Okay.
And Jamie is my go-to. I'll be like, Jamie, I'm thinking of buying this game. What do you think? And he will already have played it. He'll have he is.
Aficionado.
Oh, he is. He knows everything, and
amazing.
He is great. And so, the way that I kind of got that job, I think I was playing Ghost Hunter at the time, and I went in and was like, "Hello, I'm playing Ghost Hunter, and I'm stuck on this bit, and my magazine hasn't replied. Do you know how to do it?"
What, you went into Game and asked that? Amazing.
And he just used to stand and chat to me and just give me advice and just be a super nice guy. And so when I went in and was like, can I please have that job? He was like, you genuinely play a lot of games and know how to speak about games. Of course you can have a job.
Wicked.
So, yeah, it was lots of fun. So that's like my gaming history of how I, kind of came into games. And like, it's no secret that passion of playing games and being fascinated by games then obviously led me into the games industry. That's no secret. But the game I'm going to finish with, and I'm finishing with it because it's controversial.
Okay.
So Metal Gear is a pinnacle for me, as we know, and for why. But moving into PlayStation 2, and PlayStation 2 probably being my favourite console ever.
Interesting.
Yeah, just love it. There was so much. Just, yeah, like I said about working a game in the back catalogue and what people had traded in, there was some crazy hidden gems on the PS2. My favourite Metal Gear Solid, and this is the game I'm going to end with, of 2001, that I'll probably get a lot of hate for, is Metal Gear Solid 2. Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of the Patriots, is the best Metal Gear Solid game.
Weird. What's the fourth one called? I thought Sons of the Patriots was 4.
Oh no, that's Patriots something or other.
Patriot Games with Harrison Ford.
I never finished that one. Number 4.
I'm really confused.
Is it Guns of the Patriots?
I think that rings more of a bell. So your favourite game...
Sons of Liberty is Metal Gear 2. Yep. Guns of the Patriots is...
There you go. Sons of Liberty. Liberty X. The game.
What did I say? Guns of Liberty?
Sons of Liberty. Oh, Liz, we've drunk too much
Sons
wine.
Of Liberty.
We're having too much of a good time.
Yeah, we are.
We're talking about Metal Gear 2. Talk to me about it.
It's the best Metal Gear game. And this is where I'm going to finish my gaming history. I'm going to leave it at 2001. I'm going to leave this on a controversial point that kind of is a bit like a podcast, how I'm going to end it. But Metal Gear Solid 2, might do this in a later episode, is the best Metal Gear Solid. Because it's just stylistically brilliant. Dead Cell are great. Vamp is awesome. The whole story about the Patriots is amazing. Raiden is incredible. The contrast of him and Snake is perfect.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
The fact that you can hold the L1 button and hear what the other people are thinking while you're talking to them is incredible.
Yeah.
Fish and Mailed, Colonel being mental. It's just a perfectly put together amazing game, and I don't care what anyone says, Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty is the best Metal Gear Solid game ever, and that is my gaming history.
Well, Liz McCurry, this has been a wonderful time.
Yeah, it's been great. But we see now how different our histories are.
Never the twain shall meet, apparently. And that is the genesis of Fierce Feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, this comes back to the conversation that Liz and I had on a flight where we started talking about games and realised
for 11 hours
that neither of us knew what the hell the other one was talking about.
Yeah, it was such fun.
We thought we'd commit it to an audio tape in the form of an SD card.
This all started on a humble flight to GDC where we were sat next to each other and we just spoke about games the other one hadn't heard of for 11 hours.
Yeah, just desperately trying to find common ground, which we're yet to find.
Which we're yet to find. But yeah, thank you. Well, that was great.
I feel like this is an episode all about how even if you have no common ground, it's really heartening to hear about other people's stories of finding familiarity and finding kinship in others who have similar interests.
Yes, absolutely. And that games are for everyone, and that the sort of view of games is changing. Because I guess that's something I didn't say right. I was going to I'm going to allude as to how my mum's view on games has changed, which I didn't. So yeah, she always thought games was really bad. She didn't really get it. All she saw was my weird twitching. So, you wouldn't blame her.
How is your wobbly leg these days?
Oh, whenever I play Tekken, it comes back out. I'm so blooming good at Tekken. I dare anyone to challenge me at Tekken.
Really?
There was
the first one, any of them? What
Tekken 3 I'm particularly good at.
Okay.
I can't remember what Tekken it was. It might have been Tekken 5, but I went to EGX. It was the EGX that Heavy Rain was being debuted at, because I remember I was on the Eurogamer website looking a bit too happy to be playing it. Just one of those candid shots of me video games. When I was in the queue for Tekken, it was Winner Stays On, and I was just caning everyone.
There was just you and a queue of hundreds of people.
Yeah, literally, I'm not even kidding.
Cool.
And some people were very angry. So, just to finish off that point that I left mute.
About your mum.
About my mum. So when I sort of transitioned from playing games into wanting to create them or be involved in them and their sort of creation, I decided to go to university to study them. And my mum was like, no, you're not. You're not doing that. You're a smart girl. You've done all your sciences. You're not doing that. So I ended up going...
You're clearly a biologist, Liz.
So I went to do medical genetics.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I went to Leeds to do medical genetics. Realised that...
you were just too good at Tekken 3 and had to divert to a BA in Tekken 3.
If there was a BA in Tekken 3, I'd have got first. Realised that the reason I'd chosen medical genetics was because I was obsessed with the genome soldiers from Metal Gear. Dropped out of uni. My mum didn't speak to me for weeks. My mum and my sister did not speak to me.
She didn't confiscate your Master System again, did she? No more Mortal Kombat.
No more Mortal Kombat for you. You're ruining your life with these video games. So... what I ended up doing was taking a year out, making some money. I worked in a bank.
You'd finished working at Game at this point?
Yes.
Got it. You'd gone full Barclays.
I'd gone full Barclays. And...
full Niles Barclays.
Decided to go back to uni and do game design.
Okay.
And my mum was like, no, you're not doing it. But I went and she was like, you're gonna just waste your intelligence. So I took my sister with me on the open day and I went to Huddersfield and they had Canalside Studios, which was the game studio as part of the university. So for the placement year, students would get industry experience through their studio inside.
Cool.
Took my sister there and they were showing my sister how they would like rig and animate a character and how they would model and texture. And, you know, the complexity of actually putting a game together. And my sister was blown away and she went back home and said to my mum, like, this is insane. This is the future. You need to let Elizabeth do this. So she came as well.
Wait, no, she went... yeah. She joined the same course?
No, can you imagine?
I don't know.
My mum on a game design course. It'd
Not
be
your
hilarious.
mum, your sister.
Oh, no, my sister's a midwife. My mum came and had a look. My mum had to come and have a look.
Okay.
She didn't take anyone's word.
No.
So my mum came and had a look and she was like...
But your sister was the gateway drug?
Oh, she was the catalyst for sure.
Okay.
Came and had a look. Was like, bloody hell, this is impressive, isn't it? And then from that moment forward, if I was ever playing a game, she'd like come and be like, what's this? How's this made? Why does it move like that?
Wow.
What does that mean?
I love the idea of your mum like witnessing all of this amazing technology, like probably firsthand for the first time properly, and talking to these like, you know, engineers or these people being like, yeah, it's pretty impressive, but have you seen Scorpion in Mortal Kombat 3?
Why does he make my daughter's leg twitch?
Yeah. Any idea about the leg wobbling? Can you fix that if she joins the course?
So yeah, Until Dawn's her favourite game. She loves it. That was the first game that we like played through together where she was just...
But this is you taking a console home to show your mum. This is where games are at now.
Yeah, like my mum would know. My mum says she doesn't play games, but she plays Solitaire and... what is it, Mahjong, is it called?
Mahjong.
Yeah, she plays that. She says she's not a gamer. She is. But yeah, I took my PlayStation home, played Until Dawn with her, played it in a weekend, and she absolutely loved it.
Wicked.
There we go.
Yeah, my parents never really kind of got it. It was really interesting. Like they kind of, you know, we never really had that many conversations. All the conversations were just like about the cost of building a PC, or like, you know, like, oh, what if you're going to replace this CPU yourself? Are you going to break it? We'll have to take it back to PC World and all this stuff, and all this, you know, all these kind of like misconceptions about like, oh, we're not going to understand the gaming, but you know, we know that you're into computers, and
that makes you happy. So.
And it seems like computers are good for the future, so we'll support you, kind of thing. And I remember, just like this kind of like cursory level of understanding. Like I remember being like I went on after my degree in interactive media stuff, which involved game things, and then I went on and started teaching that degree. My dad called me up once, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you know, like had a really great group of students on the course today. They made this game, blah blah blah." And my dad said, "What do you mean, students?" I was like, well, "You know, people that I teach, and he's like, "You teaching?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've been a teacher for 2 years now." He's like, "Oh, but I thought you were just like sort of demonstrator, sort of help people out." I'm like, "Dad, I've been a teacher for 2 years, teach video games." He's like, "Why would you teach video games?" And he just got really confused by the whole concept of it. We haven't spoken about it since. But it's fine. You know, he understands that I'm now in a company that is, you know, dominant in video games in various ways, and that I'm very happy, and he's fine with it.
I think that's the thing with my mum as well. I think she said to me that she's very proud of me for following what I enjoyed and finding a job in it.
Yeah.
Which is a big thing, because like I said, she's a very strong, proud Italian woman, and so to kind of give me a pat on the back and go, "Yeah, I'm proud of you," is a big thing. So, yeah. She likes Until Dawn more than she lets on.
Yeah, I think, like, my dad also appreciates the difference of, like, you know, like you say, the confidence and the ambition to kind of stick with what you're into.
Yeah, yeah.
And, like, you know, he'll be like I'll drive home with my shitty old car, and he'll be like, "Oh, God, I guess we better check the oil and do all the things with the car." And I'm like, I don't really know, like, where any of this stuff is on the car. And he's like, "Oh, have you checked the thing with the thing and the, you know, the bumpers and the blah?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know what that is." So I go to a garage and I pay them and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, "Yeah, I guess, you know, I don't know how to send an email, so it's okay."
Aww,
bless him.
That's really sweet.
He's trying to learn how to send an email. He's 74, Liz. What am I going to do?
Oh, that's really sweet.
And thus endeth...
Yeah.
Our rambling story about our gaming history.
Slightly wine-fueled as well.
Yeah.
This is the first time we've introduced alcohol to the podcast.
I would say so. I think the alcohol will listen again, personally. I think they loved the...
What did you think of it? I really enjoyed myself.
Yeah. Oh, good. So we appreciate you listening on this bonus episode, and I think we'll do some more in the future. I think the future bonus episodes will be guests that we have on.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I'm going to try and get my mum on.
That would be incredible. I would love to pick your brain, the brain of your mum, as to what she thought about all of these stages of your life.
I would love to get my mum's point of view of
I think I should interview her, and you should not be allowed to,
I would love that.
to interject.
Can I just say one thing before you interview my mum?
I mean, she's not here now, so go for it.
There was one particular point in Final Fantasy VIII when I was playing it with my back against the radiator burning to death. I was stuck on the boss, Norg. Is his name Norg? He was the big yellow boss with the glowing orbs, and it had taken me forever to kill him. And just as his scene, you know, just his animation of him being destroyed was playing, my mum burst into my room and she went, "Oh, Lizzie, I'm just going to borrow your hairdryer." Unplugged the PlayStation, didn't she? Yes.
Oh, no.
And I, you know, it could have gone two ways. I could have exploded in anger. My cousin used to snap his glasses in half. What do
you mean used to? How many glasses did he have?
Oh, it got to the point where my auntie refused to buy him any new glasses, so we had to put plaster on him.
So he couldn't see the TV.
I didn't get angry. I just, like, put my head in my hands and was silent, and she just, like, sidled. Really
and she went,
slowly out.
"I'm taking the PlayStation away." You've lost your mind.
I don't think she's ever been... She, like, braced herself for impact. And then... just slowly sidled out the room.
Like Homer descending into the bush.
Yeah. So I'd like to get her side on that as well.
Wicked.
But anyway, sorry, I'll stop rambling.
Cool, so thank you for listening to this bonus episode of Fierce Feedback. You can subscribe to us, of course, on iTunes and Spotify and anywhere that you listen to podcasts. We'd love to hear your review. Please rate us on there. It helps us find more of an audience. You can email with any thoughts and anything you'd like to see on the show using fiercefeedback@gmail.com, or you can tweet us using @fiercefeedback and we will get back to you. And we hope you had a wonderful time.
Yeah, and if you like first feedback us on Twitter, share with us what the first game was that you ever played and like how it made you feel. I think that would be a nice little thing.
Yeah, I find it interesting. We talked before the episode with a couple of friends who are here on this trip with us, and we asked them what made them into gamers, and I think that's a really interesting question to go from like a cursory interest in, you know, a hobby ostensibly into like, oh, this is just a thing that I am now. Because you talk to everyone and they're like, oh yeah, no one says I'm a filmer. People say I'm a gamer because there's something that identifies and like galvanizes people around this particular hobby, right?
Yeah, faux sure. So, thanks for listening. Thank you, Will. Enjoyed that.
Enjoyed that.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.